that Spider-Man guy is pretty cool, right? I mean, after all, he's Marvel's most popular superhero. Well, DC Comics decided that maybe it was time to create a new character, and made, definitely not Spider-Man. This is a brand new original character, do not steal. He was also a massive failure. This is Sideways. And you know what's the worst part about all of this? Despite taking a lot of inspiration from Spider-Man, he's actually a really good character in his own right, and his debut comic is a solid read. So what gives? Why was this brand new hero such a failure? Hello and welcome to Comic Drake, where I talk about comic books and my name is Drake. Let's talk about it. But before getting too far into things, I want to give a big thank you to Cometeer for sponsoring this video. As you can tell, I drink lots and lots of coffee, and these guys are a surprising new way to make a delicious cup in no time at all. All you need to do is take a frozen puck, add some hot water, and stir. Personally, I put a little foam on top, and in the end, you get a smooth and robust flavor. By signing up, you can get a monthly shipment customized to your roast preference sent right to your door. The capsules are flash frozen to lock in the freshness, so just throw them in the freezer and take them out to make whatever style of coffee that you prefer. For a limited time, you can get $20 off both of your first two orders for a combined $40 off by going to Cometeer.com and using my code COMIC at checkout. Thank you very much, Cometeer, for supporting my channel and my huge coffee addiction. But for now, let's get back to the video. So back in 2017, DC Comics had a huge event called Metal. And look, I'm not going to get into all of that in this video because that book was absolutely insane, what with its Justice League Voltron, Little Baby Darkseid, all of the evil Bat people, and just so much more. If you want more information, then I talk about it in my big video on every single crisis. But anyway, DC used this event as an opportunity to launch a bunch of new books under the moniker of the New Age of Heroes, which they kind of do every few years, but this time almost all of the series featured new and original heroes, as opposed to just giving sidekicks and minor characters a more front and center role. I actually really love seeing brand new characters getting made, but these comics averaged from mid to just pretty good. However, the best of the bunch was Sideways, and honestly, I love him. Written by Dan DiDio with damn good art by Kenneth Rocafort, Sideways was meant to fill that sort of teenage loner archetype that DC doesn't really have going for it. You know, a hero that's trying to figure out his place in the world and the everyday challenges of being a teenager, but also one that isn't wrapped up in like a Teen Titans or a Young Justice or a Legion of Superheroes. But okay, that's great and all, but who actually is Sideways? Well, he's an adopted Puerto Rican kid named Derek James that was in Gotham City when the Metal event was going down. During all of that madness, he fell into a portal and was exposed to dark matter, which now gives him the ability to open rifts to literally anywhere and teleport around. Oh, he also has some degree of super strength, and he also has the perfectly toned body that seems to come along with any amount of superpowers.
Lightning gave me abs.
One of the things I love about Derek's powers is that normally there would only be so much that you can get when your powers are essentially a portal gun. Like, oh wow, I snuck behind the bad guy, and I drenched a bunch of people with water, and I cut off a woman's arm because I closed the portal as she was reaching in. But the book also does a great job of doing interesting things with the powers, like making the edges of the rifts indestructible so they can cut through pretty much anything, and when you open a portal inside of a portal, they go boom. The other cool thing is that Derek isn't just able to teleport around the world. He can actually rift right on over to someone by concentrating on them, and he can literally teleport anywhere, including other universes and dimensions. But of course, there's probably a lot of you thinking,
okay, Drake, that sounds cool and all, but this doesn't sound anything like Spider-Man.
And to that I say, take a look at his costume. It's really similar. Okay, but in all seriousness, the way the character is constantly posed is really reminiscent of the wall crawler. And like, dude, they one-to-one recreated the iconic cover where Spidey gets the Venom suit. He also drops off his villains at the police in the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man style. Plus, there's also some clear inspiration from the Ultimate Spider-Man series, with Derek being a high school loser with a blonde jock bully that he uses his super strength on in a fit of rage in front of the entire school, and he also has a female best and only friend who helps him with the super suit and generally acts as Derek's confidant, much like the Mary Jane of that series. I especially love the detail here that Ernie is able to make his costume because she's a cosplayer. That is such an obvious origin story that I am really surprised that this is the first time that I've ever seen it used in a superhero comic. Oh, there's even a villain that comes and attacks his high school after figuring out that he goes there, sort of like Ultimate Green Goblin right at the beginning of that series. There's a couple more comparisons that I can make to Spidey, but that's all a part of the story, so yeah, let's get into that. Most of this comic revolves around Derek's personal life, like his dynamic with his best friend Ernie, his mom being extremely protective after the incident in Gotham, and trying his hand at being an influencer, which we all know is the worst career ever because you're always having to beg people to like and subscribe. But things start to get out of hand when Sideways is confronted by this dude named Tempest Fuginaut. He's the guardian of the space between dimensions, and he has made it his personal mission to kill Derek because he's irresponsible with his new powers, and he might destroy the fabric of reality, even if by accident. With him being completely inexperienced, all Sideways could do was run, ultimately getting away by teleporting to the top of a skyscraper and then jumping off. Fuginaut thought that he was unaliving himself, but Derek slowed his descent by smacking into several buildings and then falling into a river at such a height that the water might as well have been concrete. But it's okay, he lived. For a while, most of the book was just Sideways fighting fun one-off villains, like Replicant, who obviously duplicates the power of any metahuman that he touches, and the Showman, who literally feeds off of attention. Kind of like those reactionary YouTubers that DC Comics would label as, heroes. There's also the tragic case of Killspeed, a speedster whose enhanced metabolism spreads her leukemia faster and faster throughout her body. With that kind of sad and sympathetic villain, along with the ones that are just fun, Sideways was able to amass a pretty solid rogues gallery, and his low-level superheroics feel like they would be right at home in a TV adaptation. Derek's life even has some of that dramatic intrigue, because the milfy CEO of his mom's company finds out his secret identity, and she wants to bring him in so she can extract Derek's powers for financial gain. Her name is Leto Dominus, and she runs a place called Dark Star Science. She is so obviously evil that I have no idea how someone like Batman hasn't put her behind bars already. But then again, this is the same guy that has to keep looking at dirt on a henchman's shoes and be like, "There's trace amounts of salt on this shoe, which can only mean one thing. The abandoned theme park by the pier. Let's go, Robin." My brother in Christ, it's the Joker. He is always hiding in abandoned theme parks. And also, why are there so many goddamn abandoned theme parks in Gotham City? World's greatest detective, my ass. Anyway, this time around, Fuginaut changes his tune because he deduces that it's other forces that are messing with the dimensions. So he now wants to train Derek to become a guardian just like him. And this could not have happened at a worse time, because Derek's mom stumbles across some files on her company's server which revealed that he's Sideways, and then she got killed, which gives Derek his own Uncle Ben moment. Sideways was given zero time to process this loss though, as his otherworldly duties got in the way, as he was drafted by a team called the Seven Soldiers, who tasked him with diving into the dark multiverse for some mystical, big-level shenanigans. During his time away, Derek missed his mother's funeral, and there is a really heartbreaking scene about how adopting him was Derek's mom's idea. And now that she's gone, his dad isn't really sure how their dynamic is going to work. Bro, my heart broke when Derek said, "But I thought I was your son." God damn. Thankfully though, his dad does come around a couple of issues later and even introduces Derek to his birth mother. This is followed up by a scene of this dude watching the kid from within the dark multiverse, stating that he is actually the one that gave Sideways his powers, and that they weren't by chance. And then the book ends with a sweet moment of Derek texting his dead mom a little heartfelt goodbye as an act of closure. But somehow she replies back, and that plot is never resolved. Every single one of these New Age of Heroes comics were basically commercial flops. Even the first issue of Sideways debuted as the 48th best-selling comic of the month, and number ones are the most popular a series is ever going to be. It was a really solid book. I mean, it was nothing too mind-blowing, but it was a thoroughly great first excursion that sets up a lot of groundwork for future stories. I think the biggest problem is that a lot of these comics didn't look all that interesting, and Sideways unfortunately got lumped in with the complete and utter lack of hype. Not to mention that comics are already a medium that so few people actually participate in, that when a new IP doesn't make a splash, then why would DC bother to make more when they could just churn out yet another Batman book? What I'm mostly upset about is that we have these plot threads that were introduced right at the end of the comic that we're probably never going to see get resolved. Like, who was the hooded guy that gave Derek his powers? Is that his biological father? What about that black venom goo that kills a duck and is never seen again? But most importantly, if Derek's adoptive mother is dead, then who was Phone? To make things even more insulting, most of Sideways' appearances since his comic ended have been extremely small cameos. along with this one random pop-in where he shows up as Deus Ex Machina to help the Metalmen get out of a jam. But then you have DC looking over at their Young Justice comic and basically saying, we're almost at the end of the book, so we need to do something big. Who's every single young hero that we have that isn't already on the Teen Titans? Okay, great. We're gonna throw them into this Young Justice finale and then have them just fight in the background and absolutely add nothing to the plot. Sideways has all the potential to become a mainstay DC hero. All the company needs to do is throw him into an animated series like Young Justice or introduce him into the Arrowverse. Are people still watching that? Forget your star sign. Tell me when you stopped watching The Flash. Yet one thing that really irks me is that there's people that love to complain about diverse characters with don't change already established characters, just make new ones. And then as soon as Marvel or DC does just that, then they get ignored or shit on, even when they're well written. If you get the chance, then do yourself a favor and pick up this comic at your local comic shop or get it digitally. There are plenty of smaller things that I didn't cover in this video, and if anything I said today sounded interesting, well then this comic is right up your alley. And hey, if you like DC Comics, then consider checking out my video breaking down the capital G God of DC. And also, don't forget to subscribe for more comic book goodness. I have some extremely fun videos in the works, so you don't want to miss them. But anyway, I hope you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.